Customizing the AutoCAD user interface really isn't that difficult. Customizing the ribbon is actually pretty easy too, and by now you've probably seen a theme. Now, to do the ribbon though, you have to go backwards. When we customize toolbars and menus, we first created the toolbar or a menu. Well, in this case, we have to kind of work backwards for the ribbon. First, you need the commands. Of course, you did need the commands first for those others as well, but you just put them right into the toolbar. But a ribbon consists of a tab, and in those tabs, they have panels. And inside the panels, they have the commands. So first of all, you take your commands and you have to create a panel. So you put your commands in the panel. Once you have all of your panels together, then you create a tab. And then you put all the panels that you want into that tab. So you got to kind of go backwards if you're going to make your own tab. Or you can just add to a tab. Again, when customizing AutoCAD, I always suggest that you leave the default items alone. The default home tab, the default insert tab, the default customized workspaces, default line types, things like that. You leave them alone. That way, you always know you can get AutoCAD to work properly, because it is possible that you'll make a mistake and you'll remove something or change it the way it works so that it doesn't function the way it needs to. And this way you don't have to go back and uninstall and reinstall the software to fix it. So it's just a safety precaution. So let's say you only want a little change to the home tab. That's okay. Create a new home tab and just turn off the old out-of-the-box home tab. That way, if your home tab ever stops working, you can always go back to the default and you can get your work finished, because ultimately that's the most important thing when using AutoCAD. So to customize your ribbon, just type in the CUI, press enter, and you'll have to go to the ribbon. So if you go to the ribbon, you have different types of options. You have contextual tab states, panels, and tabs. Well, we want to make a new tab. So if we go to one of the tabs, here's the Home 2D. If I select it, I can duplicate this Home 2D. Just makes a copy of it. That way I've started with the regular Home 2D. That's this Home tab right here that's in this default workspace. It says copy. You can right click it and rename it. And I'm going to call it BCB Home 2D. Now, if I click on this button and expands it out, these are all the different panels that I have in there. When I select one, I can see what it looks like over here on the right. So now what I need to do is set up a panel. So if I right click on panel and I hit new panel, or you can select one of these others, right click and duplicate it however you like. I'm just going to make a new one and I'm just going to call it BCB. Those are my initials. So when I select on it, you can see it over here on the right. Now for a panel, you make it just like we did for the menus and for the toolbars. You find your commands, left click, drag and drop. Now remember, if you don't like the position of the command, you can always move it later. So panels have rows. I can right click on it and I can make new row. So here's row 2. You can see here's the row 2 at the bottom. And you can add all the rows you want. So for example, if I come here to the view tab, see it has 2 rows. Row 1 is right here. And row 2 is just the show motion button. If I go here, you can see I have multiple different options. And I also have a slide out option, which has row 2 on it. This is the text window. Now a slide out option are these little buttons right here, because it helps you to save some room on your ribbon, on your screen, and it will allow you to put more into your panel, but yet put the most active items right there on your list at the very top. So that's essentially all you need to do. You can right click anywhere to find extra items. You can find your dialog launcher here, row 1, slide outs. And again, remember, you can move these to wherever you want. You can make as many rows as you need to. And you may have noticed that as you left click and drag the commands up, it goes up and down and it will pan through or scroll through your different commands for you. And that's nice because sometimes the list is long and you need it to get to a certain place, and that's fine. So that's essentially how you make a panel. Now that we've made this customized panel, I can go back to my tabs. As you can see, there are a lot of panels. Here is my customized tab that I made. And here's where it gets tricky. I need to add more panels to my tab. I want to make my customized panel. It's right down here at the bottom. Left click, hold it, and drag it up to the top. And it's going to have to scroll. So you have to be a little bit patient, and maybe you have to be a lot patient. So I come up to my tab here that I finally found, and I can drop it in, and it's right there. So now that I have all of these tabs, panels the way I want them, I have to add the ribbon to my workspace. So in order to edit your ribbon, you have to go to your workspace. So I'm in my workspace here, so I select it, I right click on it and I go customize workspace. And here for my ribbon, I have to add the tabs. So I click on this button to expand the list. I find all the tabs that I want and they have the green check marks on it. I want to add my customized one and I want to take off the Home 2D because I don't want that one in there. Now, once I do that, scroll back up, right click, exit custom workspace, click OK. And now once everything's back to normal, I can switch to my BC Benton workspace and it will load everything in that it needs to. When I go to my Home tab, I have it set up the way I want. Besides the ribbon content, you can change how it's displayed. Right here is the full ribbon. If I click on these buttons here, I can minimize it just to the tabs so that they're right here. And it gives you a menu bar-like experience. And as I pick on the tabs, it drops down and I can get to all of my panels. That's a real space saver. So if you know where your commands are, then you can do this. You don't have to look at the icons to find them. Now I can minimize to panel titles. So I can see home, then I have draw, etc. I could do that. That saves a lot. Plus it gives me the options of what's already there. I can get to those, or I can minimize to the panel buttons. So these are the buttons for the panels. Gives me an icon of the idea of what it is and so on. Or I can turn it back to normal by clicking on this white button with that black button. So there are a lot of different ways to customize your ribbon. You can add exactly what you want to it, take things out of it. You can change the way it looks and the way it functions as well.